Little was known about SEALs at the time. I hadn't even heard of them until after I was in UDT training. But once I heard about SEALs, I think I had it from the very beginning in the back of my mind that that's what I really wanted to do, because that's where the ultimate challenge was at the time. You had a bunch of guys who were ranged from about maybe 30 to maybe 22. A couple of them might have been a little bit older, all of whom were anxious to make contact, anxious to fight. We weren't as big and as muscular and as bulky as SEALs are today. You couldn't carry that sort of weight in the climate in Vietnam. We didn't. If you take a look at a picture of any SEAL platoon, you'll find in Vietnam, you'll find that no two guys are dressed the same, from their hat, from their headgear to their footwear. Everybody was different, and it was highly individualized. But the one thing they had in common was a lot of guns and a lot of ammo. We carried a little bit of water. We carried maybe an emergency one meal of emergency food, but the rest was ammo, guns, radio equipment, batteries. Not much in the way of batteries, because we're only in the field for up to maybe 12 hours at a time. But flares for illumination at night and other signaling devices. So we were light. We didn't wear helmets. We had no body armor. We could run if we had to. We could move fast if we had to, as opposed to a lot of the troops nowadays who are loaded up with 80 or more pounds of gear that they're carrying around. So you're looking at a bunch of pretty much lean, mean, highly mobile guys and highly motivated guys who wanted to make contact with the enemy. Objective on the night that we first made contact was a North Vietnamese rocket squad. This was in June or July, I think, of 1968. I'm not exactly sure. They were using squads of men who fire 122 millimeter rockets into the middle of Saigon. It was basically a random bombardment. Pretty terrifying. And so we never thought we'd have a chance of finding one of these guys. We didn't know exactly where they were, but we knew they were firing from a certain distance in a certain direction from the middle of Saigon. So we went up there, and that's where we inserted. We crawled up onto the bank after making the underway insertion, and we were all facing inland. And I just happened to turn around and look behind me. Meanwhile, the PBRs had continued up the river, and I saw a 10-meter sampan with about 6 guys in it, coming up in the dark we had just passed them. They had obviously pulled under some overhanging brush on the riverbank, and we'd probably gone within 10 or 20 feet of them as we went by, but we couldn't see them. And so these guys, thinking that, having no idea that we were there, came up right behind us. So I saw this, and I'm desperately trying to get the attention of the guy to the left and the right of me, and I did manage to do that. And then they were right in our kill zone behind us. So I just kind of rolled over, faced the enemy, and put my weapon on, not full automatic, but semi-automatic. In other words, single fire, by mistake in my excitement. And instead of when I initiated the ambush, when I opened fire, instead of getting a whole magazine worth of bullet, I got one round out there. Fortunately, the man next to me was the stoner man. He had a fully automatic machine gun, and he took him under fire, and everybody else then saw what was going on and took him under fire. So we eliminated that rocket squad, and we didn't know who they were at the time because the sampan sunk, and we killed all the guys there. But we came back the next day to find out what was in the sampan, and it was 122 millimeter rockets. So that was a great operation. Wounded was also it was on the edge of the Rung Sat special zone in an area called the T10 or Duan 10 area, which was a very dangerous for us area of the Rung Sat, and it was to the northeast part of the Rung Sat, and the river and the river there was had many small tributaries and was pretty much impenetrable to the river patrol boats. They couldn't get deep up into it because the channels were so narrow, and the river was just unpredictable. There's so many small branches. It was very easy to get lost and hard to turn around, or it was a place made to ambush us. And for that reason, it was a very strongly held and defended enemy area. Well, I decided we had to get up there and penetrate and get in there and stir things up a little bit. So patrol leader was my assistant, Lieutenant Junior Grade Bruton. But I went along, as we often did. We often went on each other's operations with the understanding that even though I was senior, he was in charge of the tactics of the operation. Well, we got up. We managed to find our way up to a place that we wanted, an exact location where we wanted to be, where we had heard of a lot of enemy activity in an area between a couple of different villages. So we worked our way through the waterways, climbed up through some nasty mangrove swamp up onto high ground, where it was actually dry. I mean, we weren't, in mud or anything like that, and set up alongside a road. And we saw an armed man come by, and we took him under fire and shot him. And we just stayed there because we knew that this would attract, if there were any enemy in the area, they would come out to find out what was going on. And so we set up a claymore and to get these guys as they came from the village, and we were waiting for them to come. And sure enough, up they came, patrolling in the dark up the road, about 8 or 10 of them, and they got in our kill zone. And I told Jerry Todd, Claymore. And he cranked off the Claymore and nothing happened. It just made a click, and he did it again. It was a kind of a damp night and dewy. It wasn't raining, but there must have been some moisture got into the system. So at that point, I said, shoot him. At this point, I was on my hands and knees, looking right at these people, and everybody else was pretty much crouched down in the brush. And I said, shoot him. And so we took them under fire, the enemy under fire. They turned, and one of their guys turned around, and the ones who were knocked down by our initial burst took us under fire. And I got shot in the arm and the leg. That was the end of the contact. We called in the Sea Wolves, and I wasn't able to walk, so we went out by helicopter.